Apple might finally erase the biggest base model compromise in the iPhone lineup by giving every single iPhone 18 the same 12 GB of memory and pairing it with a next-gen 2nm chip that could change how fast your phone feels day to day. Today we are talking the iPhone 18, specifically the 2026 lineup, and the shift that keeps popping up in supply chain chatter. 12 GB of RAM for every model, from the standard iPhone 18 all the way up to the Pro and Pro Max. And that's not the only leak gaining traction. Separate reports say the iPhone 18 Pro Max could cross 5,000 mAh for the first time, charging might climb to around 45 watts, and Apple's A20 generation could bring real jumps in speed and efficiency. None of this is confirmed by Apple, so treat it as informed rumor, not fact. But these leaks are consistent enough that it's worth unpacking what they could mean for normal people who just want their iPhone to last longer, run smoother, and keep up with what iOS is becoming. Multiple supply chain reports keep repeating the same idea. Apple is poised to make a unified memory jump for the entire iPhone 18 family. Analyst Dan Nisted also pointed to the rumor publicly, citing recurring chatter from the supply chain. And the key detail is this: the standard iPhone 18 would finally match the memory level that reportedly debuted on the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max. That's a big deal because Apple has historically used memory as one of the quiet separators between regular iPhones and Pro iPhones. The base model gets enough to feel smooth today, and the Pro models get extra headroom for heavier workloads and future features. So why would Apple standardize 12 gigs now? The simplest answer is also the most obvious: on-device AI. Apple Intelligence-style features, especially the kind that run locally instead of on a server, are memory-hungry. And if iOS 27 expands that feature set the way leaks suggest, Apple can't have the base model running a watered-down version without risking customer frustration. People don't buy a new iPhone expecting a feature to be locked out because of memory. They expect it to work. And the rumor is essentially saying Apple wants every iPhone 18 buyer to get the full AI experience, including a more advanced Siri that can handle more requests on device, juggle more context, and respond faster without constantly reaching for the cloud. Here's the practical part. Memory isn't just about how many apps you can keep open. It's about how much working space the phone has for real-time tasks. Generative AI features can load bigger models, store more intermediate data while generating text or images, and keep more context available without stuttering. If the base iPhone doesn't have enough RAM, you get slower processing, more reloads, and features that either lag or get disabled. Apple has always been famous for doing more with less. iPhones often ship with less RAM than Android flagships, yet they feel just as fast or faster because Apple controls hardware, software, and the chip architecture. But AI is changing the rules. Even the best optimization can't fully dodge the brute reality that these new features like memory. So if this rumor is accurate, the iPhone 18 lineup might be Apple admitting that the just optimize it era is hitting a new ceiling. Not because Apple got worse at software, but because the tasks are heavier. Now, it's not just RAM. The other half of the performance story is the chip. Leaks point to Apple's next-generation A20 family, built on TSMC's 2nm process. That's the kind of shrink that usually brings two things: higher performance and better efficiency. In plain English, the phone can do more work, using less power while generating less heat. Combine that with 12 gigs of memory, and you get a very believable list of improvements that regular users will actually notice: smoother multitasking, faster AI processing, and better longevity for future software updates. Let's talk about that last point, because it matters more than people think. When iPhones age, it's not usually because they become unusable. It's because new versions of iOS stack more features, heavier background services, and bigger apps on top of the hardware. Extra RAM acts like a cushion. It helps the phone stay responsive 2, 3, even 4 years down the line when apps are bigger and iOS asks more of the system. And Apple has an incentive to make that experience better on the base model. If the standard iPhone 18 feels old too quickly, people either get frustrated or they feel pressured to buy Pro. But pressure backfires. Consumers are more value-aware than ever. A base model that stays fast longer is easier to recommend, and it protects Apple's reputation. Reports suggest Apple may do a staggered launch instead of releasing the entire iPhone 18 family at the same time. The iPhone 18 Pro models, and possibly a first folding iPhone, could land in fall 2026, while the standard iPhone 18 might show up in early 2027 alongside more affordable models. If that happens, it changes how you should think about upgrades. The Pro gets the spotlight first, then the base model arrives later, potentially with a different value proposition. And it could also give Apple time to manage supply constraints, especially if memory is tight worldwide. More RAM costs money, and there's also a broader market issue. Global demand for memory is being pulled hard by AI servers and data centers. Even huge companies can't pretend supply isn't a factor. So one rumor-driven possibility is that Apple could offset RAM costs by trimming certain specs on the base model, maybe display features, maybe manufacturing choices, maybe materials. Not necessarily in a dramatic way, but enough to protect margins. And honestly, that might be a trade many people would accept. If you told most buyers, you can have a slightly less flashy display feature, but you'll get better multitasking, stronger AI support, and more future-proofing, a lot of them would take the performance. Now let's switch to the Pro side, because that's where the other big leaks are. The iPhone 18 Pro Max, expected around September 2026, is rumored to cross 5,000 milliamps for the first time. Some sources put it in the 5,100 to 5,200 range, which would make it the largest battery ever in an iPhone, at least by capacity. The smaller iPhone 18 Pro is also expected to climb, possibly landing around 4,100 to 4,250 milliamps. That's less headline-grabbing than over 5,000, but it still matters because it suggests Apple is steadily increasing capacity across the board. And battery capacity alone doesn't guarantee amazing battery life. The chip matters just as much, sometimes more. That's why the A20 Pro rumor is so important. If the A20 Pro on 2 nanometer is meaningfully more efficient, some leaks suggest up to a 30% efficiency improvement compared to the prior generation. Then the combination of a bigger battery and a more efficient chip could deliver a real jump in how long the phone lasts. There's even optimistic talk of 2-day battery life for the Pro Max. That's been a long-standing wish for iPhone users, not barely all day, but comfortably into day 2 with normal use. Whether Apple hits that depends on real-world behavior, screen brightness, cellular signal, camera use, and of course how heavy the AI features are. But the direction of the rumor is clear. Endurance is a priority. One interesting note, Apple doesn't seem ready to adopt silicon-carbon battery tech yet, which some Android brands are experimenting with. That fits Apple's usual pattern. Move slower on new battery chemistry, focus on integration, and make gains through efficiency and careful tuning. There's chatter that the iPhone 18 Pro lineup could reach around 45-watt wire charging, up from roughly 40 kW on the iPhone 17 Pro range. On paper, that sounds like a small jump. In practice, it can matter because the difference between "I can top up quickly before leaving" and "this is still too slow" often comes down to those first 15 to 25 minutes. If Apple hits the right charging curve, 0 to 50% in about 20 minutes becomes plausible with the right charger. And yes, you'll still need to buy that charger separately, because Apple's not expected to include one in the box. Wireless charging should stay strong too, with MagSafe and Qi2 continuing. The iPhone 17 Pro supports up to 25 watt on Qi2, and while there's no solid confirmation of a huge jump, Apple could refine it. Even small tweaks, better heat management, more consistent speeds would improve everyday use. And all of this still sits under one big banner. Apple is preparing for a more AI-forward iPhone era. More RAM, more efficient chips, bigger batteries, faster charging. These aren't random upgrades. They're the kind of upgrades you make when you expect people to do more on-device more often. So if the leaks are right, the iPhone 18 story might be less about a radical new look and more about the fundamentals, performance headroom, AI capability, and battery endurance. That's also why the 12 gigs for everyone rumor matters so much. It signals a shift in Apple's product philosophy. The base iPhone may no longer be good enough. It may be built to run the same core experience for longer without pushing you into Pro pricing just to keep up. Of course, until Apple announces anything, we're connecting dots. Supply chains can shift, plans can change, and even accurate leaks can be early prototypes rather than final decisions. But the consistency here is hard to ignore. 12 gigs across the lineup, A20 on 2 nanometer, Pro batteries pushing new highs, and charging edging upward. If Apple lands even most of that, the iPhone 18 generation could feel like a meaningful step forward in ways you'll notice every single day. If you want more iPhone 18 updates as the leaks evolve, especially around the staggered launch, the A20 chip, and whether 12 gigs really comes to every model, subscribe and turn on notifications. And tell me in the comments which matters more to you, 12 gigs of RAM on the base iPhone or a Pro Max that can actually deliver 2-day battery life. If Apple really gives every iPhone 18 12 gigs, does that make the Pro models less tempting? Or do you still buy Pro for cameras, display, and battery no matter what? Drop your take, and I'll highlight the smartest replies in the next video. See you in the next one. Goodbye.